What's going on, everyone? Juicebags here, and welcome back to the channel. Today I kind of wanted to go over my thoughts on the changes that are upcoming in Dungeon Defenders Awaken that is on the PTR right now. Now, the public test realm has not received its first update yet. It will no doubt get many updates, and there will be quite a few tweaks to the changes that were brought in. So this is just kind of the first round on the PTR, and just kind of wanted to go through my overall thoughts and opinions. Now, first things first, I gotta say, I think all of the changes seem really, really good. I like the things that got buffed that needed to get buffed. The mana regen with the cost of channeled things going up. Of course, I was in that category of someone who had 100% uptime. However, this doesn't really bother me that much because it's actually easier to achieve the 100% uptime if you strategically toggle on and off your buffs. So I didn't really mind that nerf to the mana drain on the channeled buffs that the heroes have. Now, looking through each individual hero, first off, let's start off with the eevee. Of course, we got a little bit more mobility out of the eevee, and her decoy works a lot more similar to the decoy in Dungeon Defenders 2. So when you pop your decoy, it shoots you up in the air, and you get a slow little bit of glide time there. Now, I think this is pretty cool. It gives the eevee a little bit more mobility. However, as a longtime Dungeon Defenders 2 player, it doesn't really feel as good as it did or does in Dungeon Defenders 2. I think if the glide time was a little bit longer and it wasn't just low gravity, but we could actually float around for a little bit, I personally feel like it would feel a lot better. Now, with that in mind, not the end of the world. The eevee is still an awesome hero to play, and I will be enjoying her in the future, no doubt. Now, moving over to the huntress. The huntress got a little bit more survivability with her health. However, the changes to her defenses are pretty close. It's a step in the right direction. I do wish we were able to get down to speed caps on traps a little bit more effectively. The explosive trap is just right at the verge of greatness. It could be really, really good once again with just a little bit more of a tweak. Now, the Inferno trap is doing comparable DPS output now as say a electric aura. However, the amount of coverage and not having 100% uptime, shy of stacking both, I think you would always probably choose an electric aura over that Inferno trap. So I do feel like the explosive, the Inferno, and then of course the Thunder Spike trap are close. They're so close to being absolutely wonderful, but they feel like they need a little bit more love. Now, on the survivability front, the Huntress did get a little bit of a buff in the HP scaling, but the problem we have is enemies in Nightmare difficulty and Massacre difficulty, they hit like an absolute truck, and even with this scaling, it doesn't really make it that much easier for your Huntress to stay alive. Additionally, her buff was changed where the speed boost is no longer what it was, and the jump height is no longer what it was. Now, she still gets increased speed and an increased jump height. However, that was a big part of her survivability, and even with the additional health scaling, it still just doesn't feel really great. I mean, I don't know what the answer for the Huntress is, to be honest. Some sort of damage avoidance for sure. Of course, she's meant to be a glass cannon, but if you can't stay alive, then you just aren't going to do any damage at all, as dead heroes, of course, do no damage. Now, moving right along to the Squire. The Squire got some pretty cool changes. I know a lot of folks really like the block and playing the Squire as a full-on face tank, and I gotta say, I think this shield throw is just amazing. Now, I do wish it hit a little bit harder or had a shorter cooldown, personally, as being able to shoot it off every 5 seconds. It feels like it could be a little bit more, either a little bit more damage or a little bit less of a cooldown. However, super duper cool nonetheless. Now, on the tower side, of course, the Squire is Mr. Blockade with 3 different forms of walls. Of course, all these walls got buffed by their DU reduction. Now, the slice and dice, the bouncer blockade, I mean, a bouncer blockade for 2 DU is just absolutely incredible. And the slice and dice, of course, in my opinion, it has the biggest coolness factor in the entire game of every single defense. There's just something about a spinning wall of blades that is just glorious. Now, once again, it comes around to how hard enemies hit. If you can't keep your slice and dice alive, then it's just not gonna work for you. Now, obviously, you can add things to help the slice and dice out. You can put it on a buff beam and give it a little bit damage reduction. You can throw it inside of a strength drain aura and increase that damage reduction even further. However, when it comes to massacre enemies and the end game, the slice and dice is still kind of meme-worthy. I mean, you can force yourself to use it in situations, but the truth be told, if an ogre gets on top of it, it's just gonna get smashed. There's just no doubt about it. The slice and dice, I mean, I don't know what the right answer is, because I do think slice and dices are just super duper cool. I almost wish it was a damaging tower and not a blockade where enemies wouldn't aggro it. I think that would be awesome if you had, like, the opportunity to put slice and dices down a side of a lane where enemies had to walk through them. I think that would be the coolest thing ever. However, in that situation, of course, they're just not going to stay alive. And then the poons. I'm not really sure what it's going to take to make these poons glorious, but one of the big hurdles that the Harpoon Tower has to overcome is that they were the most glorious thing ever in Dungeon Defenders 1. Obviously, we can't have those speed caps now. We couldn't have them in DD2 because of the servers. We can't have them in DDA now to make the game run on more platforms. And all of that's quite understandable, but I think that is the Harpoon Tower's biggest hurdle to overcome. Is it's just a little bit disappointing compared to DD1. And DD1, oh, those poons were glorious, no doubt. Now moving right along to the Apprentice. The Apprentice got a little bit of a health buff as well, and additionally can now stay fully on the move with Mana Bomb going off, which should make for some fun builds. The Apprentice's problem really is that survivability again. Now, the Apprentice is in a little better shape than the Huntress is right now. However, the Apprentice also has no movement ability. So not having a movement ability means the Apprentice is going to have a harder time getting out of situations and is going to have those survivability issues. And that's my main problem with the Apprentice. Now, the Magic Missile Tower. Let's just talk about the Magic Missile Tower for a second. The changes to the Magic Missile Tower are completely awesome. It's 360 degrees. The thing's dirt cheap to place at just 2 DU. It has crazy good range. And I think personally the Magic Missile Tower may be on the better side of all of the defense changes. I think the Magic Missile may have gotten a little bit more than anything else. Now, with that being said, I do have one problem with the Magic Missiles. I feel like the Magic Missiles are set up as a fodder targeting tower, which means it's on the fodder style target priorities. I almost wish that the Magic Missile was on special enemies instead, and not the fodder enemies. You know, obviously we want to have towers that deal with fodder, and we want to have towers that deal with special enemies. The Magic Missile being single target, to me personally, I feel like it really just has to be on that single enemy target priority list, or the special enemy target priority list, pardon me. In my opinion, I think it would make the Magic Missile Tower even better. Now we got them shrooms. Oh yeah, the shroom range is quite glorious, and the shrooms are really quite good. They put out a lot of damage. They seem to be pathing really, really well. They go where they're supposed to go and explode. The downside with the shrooms is the shrooms have a bunch of cool value, and you want to see a bunch of shrooms running down the lane, because you know that's just the coolest thing ever, watching a bunch of shrooms run down the lane out to an enemy. However, if you build this way, you're completely wasting your additional shrooms, so don't go with more than one shroom per lane. It is a nice addition to any lane. However, using multiples, you're going to find you're going to get a lot of mushroom explosions that are not hitting any target, because they do hit hard, So the first mushroom to arrive at a pack of enemies will no doubt kill the enemies. The second, third, fourth, or fifth mushroom that arrives there is just going to explode and not hit anything. However, I do like the shrooms. I like the direction it's going. I just wish it was more viable to spam them, because that would be super duper fun. And then on to the monk. The monk got really taken care of as an active DPS hero in this update as well. One of the challenges the monk had in the past was not being able to proc irradiate from the ranged attack. Being able to proc irradiate now from the ranged attack brings the monk into viability with just about every other hero out there. And additionally, the monk got a little bit more health scaling. So your monk's going to be a touch healthier, and it's going to hit a whole lot harder having that irradiate tick on the enemies from the ranged attack. So absolutely loving what I have seen from the monk. So I'm anxious to see what we get and when it arrives for the first update to the PTR, as there will no doubt be lots of changes based off of players' feedback and the surveys. Now with that in mind, once again, if you're playing the PTR, fill out the survey. It only takes a second. It's the requirement that you have to fulfill to get the exclusive wings for playing on the PTR. If you just hit your escape menu, go to the survey, it's going to open the survey up in a browser. It's never too early and it's never too late to fill out the survey, so make sure you get all of your feedback into Chromatic. So that will do it for now. Just wanted to do a quick rundown of my first impressions on this particular PTR for the upcoming update to Dungeon Defenders Awaken. So thanks again, y'all, and I will see ya next time around. Take it easy.